This is the Loiners View podcast.
This is the Loiners View podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's Loiners View. And I'm Laurie, your host, and this week with me we have Mr. Jordan Walker.
Hi, Loz. Has it really been a week since I last saw you?
I know, I've missed you. Missed you like a lot.
Time flies, doesn't it, when you're in lockdown?
I mean, what more could you ask? And it's nice to see you brought two friends along with you as well, Jordan, as well.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Exactly, my friends. Heard they're rugby fans as well. Kevin Sinfield. Anyway, we're digressing. And with us this week making a return is Mr. Christopher Patrick.
Evening, gents. How you doing? You all right?
Not so bad. Right. How we doing, gents? Right. This week, not a massive amount of news. Fair bits and pieces. Magic Weekend looks like it's going to get moved. Maybe it's the summertime. We don't know. As with most of the fixtures, we might get them reduced. What do you reckon, guys? Are we thinking it's going to be a bit of a chaotic mess, or how are we seeing it going?
Just play everybody once, home and away. I mean, I know they're going to lose the loop fixtures, which is another loss of income they could possibly do without. And you know, there's a World Cup at the end of the year still at the time of press. You know, like England's going to need some help, not them playing, you know, Friday, Tuesday every single week all season. It's not going to work. Just have it play each other once.
How are we going to be guaranteed that we're going to be able to play in Newcastle in, say, July? I mean, how are they going to even maybe get the fans in? We don't know, do we? That's the awkward thing, isn't it?
I can't see a dramatic amount of fans this side of the autumn. I just, it'd be unnecessary, wouldn't it, to move it to July or, you know, very start of August and then go ahead and fans still not be there. It doesn't seem like a good option to me.
Chris, what do you think? Do you think this could be a bit of a, well, how can we put it, a conundrum that we don't really know what to do with?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, it'd be a bit weird having a Magic Weekend behind closed doors anyway, because the whole point of a Magic Weekend is obviously it's a fans festival. I completely agree with Jordan's point anyway, because, you know, playing a team home and away just once, you know, just doing that over the course of the season, obviously it makes sense. But, I mean, that was something I want to bring up later on. One of my pet peeves with Rugby League at the moment is the loop fixtures that I've mentioned before. I just don't see any point in them. But yeah, just sort of going back to your original point, yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think maybe for this year it's a bit of an uncertain thing to have a Magic Weekend event, especially if you want fans going into St James's Park. I could probably say, I don't know, I've just got a feeling maybe it's going to get cancelled this year and then see how we go next season.
I think we should. Imagine, right, this is how I would do it. RFL, if you need anybody to market this, I'm your man. Next year, go to Newcastle, say June, have a massive pie where we can help everybody go. Everybody's safe. Have a big festival, music and stuff. It'd be a great laugh, wouldn't it? You know, make a proper call it like, instead of Magic Weekend, how about Party Weekend, where at least everyone's hopefully, touch wood, everyone's all right. Would that make sense? Or is that me being a bit too...
No, it would. But the thing is with the Magic Weekend is the obvious logistical issue of the fact that they're not going to allow an event where fans are going from all around different tiers in the country to go and sit in the same stadium all weekend.
That's exactly it. That's exactly how I've been.
You know, we probably will be back in the stadiums by then, but I don't think you'll see any away supporters till probably next season. I just don't see anywhere that it's possible to get any fans in.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a mess, I think, in that
Yeah.
one.
I think we'll sort of start off having reduced. You know, we'll go back to reduced capacity. You know, so many fans going to one game, so many fans going to another. Unfortunately, it's going to be a ballot, isn't it? You know, you might be lucky and see Wigan at home, or you might end up getting Lee at home. It's just how it's going to be. But I take that.
Yeah,
you know,
any rugby will be
I'll
happy
take
with.
that
I don't
now.
mind.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way. I mean, I'll never complain ever again about going to Wakefield, Cass, Lee, or wherever. Just get me back in the stands. I just can't wait to be there.
Maybe Cass. I mean, you know, on a cold, wet Friday night. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It's a good point, though, but I'm sure we'll come up to with more Magic stuff later on in the show, I can imagine already. The other few bits of news regarding players, we've heard that there's been, well, it's been denied in the last few hours, but Mr. Falau at Catalans was rumours that he won't come back. The club couldn't get in touch with him. It's been denied. What do we reckon, boys? Is this a case of another stunt being played, or is he kind of going to find something else to do?
Is this actually true then? Is this just...
Well, they basically put a statement out about 4 o'clock, Callum's going, oh, we're in touch with him. He's got a family issue. He might have trouble coming back in terms of COVID restrictions. I don't know. Is this another, what do you reckon? Is this another chapter to add to the...
Do you know what? I really couldn't care less about him. If he wants to stay there, then let him stay there. It's obviously caused a lot of controversy. Catalans knew what they were taking on when they signed him. Don't get me wrong, he's been a great player. They've taken him when he's left. He's been in the wilderness. He's left Rugby Union. They've given him a decent contract. But it seems like he might be doing a bit of Jimmy Seguiaro and staying at home. But for me,
working in Costa.
Yeah, working in Costa. Yeah, no, for me, he can stay in Australia for all I care.
Yeah, I think it's one of those which is probably as daft it sounds. It's not worth the not worth the attention. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he's a bit of a chartered.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what his thoughts are on how COVID started. Anyway, I think that's a different podcast. So.
I think that's a different area. That's a different.
Yeah.
Don't mention the C word on this podcast. I've had enough of it.
No, that's it. No more mentions tonight.
Type of C word. No, anyway,
right, we're going to play a little game, gentlemen. Right, are you ready? Who can say the new Rhino signing surname?
I can, purely because I listened to him do it on the Yorkshire Post website.
Yeah.
Go, George. Off you go, lad.
Vuniyayawa. Am I right?
I think you pretty much,
smashed it.
So
just remember, it's Vuni and then Yaya as in Toure and then Wan and you
yeah, there we go. Right, I've said it. Yeah, thanks, mate.
I mean, whether or not it's as easy after 8 pints, I don't know. But
that's it. That's why it's going to be fun. An interesting signing by Leighton. What do you reckon?
I don't know anything about him, to be honest. But as somebody said that I seen online the other day, like we've picked him up on the cheap. He's a 12-month option, so if it works out, great. Let's sign him up on a better contract, longer term. But if it doesn't, we've lost nothing, have we? We haven't got in years gone by where we've had people that haven't delivered tied into long contracts. So it's a win-win, isn't it? Really.
By the sounds of it, he appears to be like from when he was playing county games. He said, "Well, county, like what we'd class as lower league." He seems to be very good, and he's played quite a few games for 5 games last year for New Zealand Warriors. It could be a really good idea. It could be a good signing. I mean, he's a Fiji international.
I think for me, it's a no-brainer. It seems like the deal might have been brought together maybe very quickly towards the back end of last year, losing Steer Manor for Knife. I've said that correct.
Someone's got a dictionary.
I know. What attempt? What's going on?
I mean, for me, it's a 1-year deal. It's a win-win. If it doesn't work out, so be it. It could be a possible stopgap, but he's potentially playing to be in the World Cup next year. He's playing for maybe further extension with Leeds, or he's playing for a contract back in the NRL the following season. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we've definitely got to give him a chance. I mean, I can understand why some fans can be a little bit underwhelmed by it. We don't really know much about him. He's 25. He's played, I think, 5 first-team games. I mean, reading into it, I think it was like quite into Rugby Union, and then you watched Jared Hayne in the 2008 World Cup that got him into Rugby League. The only thing that sort of strikes me as a bit strange, though, is like last year he was one of the 4 players, was he not, who was sent home back to New Zealand because he was missing his family. But yet then he's coming over to England next season to play. So it's like, well, good luck to him, but is he coming over with some family? You think, is it going to work out for him over here?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where you automatically think to yourself, we've given him a 1-year contract. It's almost like if he doesn't settle in, or we've not lost out on anything if that happens. I don't know about you. We can always play one of the youngsters. I don't know.
They seem a really, really good set of lads, don't they, this team, actually? So I think they'll, hopefully help him settle in. I mean, look at the likes of, Reece that came over and Conrad and all that. And, they're all in like a big gang together if you see them on social media, aren't they? They seem to be having a really good time. So fingers crossed they'll get him over and he'll settle in and deliver the goods on the field. Like, obviously, a 25-year-old, having not made many NRL appearances, you're probably coming for a reason, aren't you, as well? And probably the right one. It's not like you're getting a 33-year-old who just wants a few quid. It's a young lad who wants to make his name in the game. And
week in, week out rugby.
Did you see his interview with Phil Daly? So I think he came across really well, and he was saying he's playing for potentially another year at Leeds. I mean, he's obviously saying the right things. He's not going to turn around and say, "Well, I'm having a year here and I'm going to go back home." But I think give him a chance. He's here to play games, and so let's see what he can do.
Plus, as well, I mean, as daft as it sounds, the experience is going to be good for him. But it's also, I mean, we're not trying to promote Fiji here, but it might help Fiji as well because. I mean, he's a young lad who's learning, and obviously with Fiji playing here in the World Cup, it could be an interesting thing for them as well, couldn't it? It could almost be might be doing groundwork, you never know. Or maybe looking too much into it, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. Right, so gentlemen, we'll come to the main point of this week's show. Now, we put a tweet out earlier this week, and we're on about, well, we decided this could either go one way or the other. So we are going to do our unpopular rugby league opinions. Now, this has got the potential to go either completely bonkers for the rest of the show, or it's going to go, well, one way or the other. So I've got a feeling that one person out of those three may have some very good ones. No offense to the other person. So Jordan, we'll start with you here because I've got a feeling your first one could cause chaos. Maybe. So
rather than read them out as a list of 5, how about we go around, do one each, and then follow around? Want to do that?
If you want to do that, you are more than welcome, Chief.
So for mine, it's too easy when you're playing this sort of game to just go, oh well, so and so who plays for Wigan's crap. But I've tried to stay. No, I've tried to stay away from that. So I've tried to make it about like rugby league moments or things that that people think that I disagree with. So my first one is I actually miss Eddie and Steve-O.
Ah, okay.
Just throwing it out there. I don't know.
I get that. Yeah, because. With that, you miss Steve-O's all his like certain lines that he does every week, every day. And Eddie, who, well, you could never decide if he loved Warrington or Wigan or Saints. Yeah, I get that.
Just the sort of unique style he had, and the massive moments that they commentated on, and I do sort of miss them, to be honest. But then again, I would listen to Matt Hancock on loop before Phil Clark, so maybe that's just clouded my judgment a little bit. But do you know what? I just miss their all-round weirdness, really. The stuff they used to come out with and that. And I don't know whether I miss them both as much as Ray French because he was my favourite. But I do think that Super League's a lot less sort of like noticeable without them, if you know what I mean. Like if you tuned into the game as a complete neutral, you would recognise their voices, I think, before you would anything else.
I definitely miss Steve-O.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Jordan. I mean, you've got to look at Eddie and Steve-O, and I think they were a brilliant pairing when you look back on it. I think maybe towards the back end of them being on Sky Sports, you felt it was, their time to leave. But I think what I miss with Eddie and Steve-O, I miss Boots and All, having the programme midweek, like the highlights from the previous weekend, the reviews, that type of magazine type show. And I think Rugby AM's now finished as well. So we don't really have that sort of rugby league programme during the week that we can watch. I'd love to have something like Boots and All back.
Yeah. You mentioned Rugby AM there. The guys from Rugby AM have actually started their own Rugby League podcast. I'd just like to give them a shout out, actually, if that's all right, because I listened to the one that they've done with Luke Gale and Brad Dwyer yesterday, and it's brilliant. Well worth a listen, Rhinos fans. It's some of the stories that they've both got are really, really good. So I think it's called CIK Rugby, something like that. So go out of your way to listen to it. It's a really good listen.
We'll happily help out our friends in other rugby league podcasts because let's be honest, we need to help everybody out in this sport, don't we? I must admit the best bit of Boots and All had to be the bit where Steve-O got pecked in the ear by Ostrich. Do you remember that? Which I mean, let's be honest, one of the best rugby league moments of all time.
It ranks just above where Angela Powers went to Wakefield to see if they had nice burgers.
God bless Angela Powers. What a lovely one. Anyway, Patrick, right, fire away. Your first one.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't really have a list like Jordan, to be fair. So I'll kind of let Jordan go on a bit of a rant later on. I think because I haven't really been on here for a while. I think since back end of last year. I mean, one thing I do want to say is what I don't agree with, but I'll bring it up anyway because I think it'll divide opinion from people. Personally, I don't agree with the way that Toronto have been treated and kicking them out. and bringing Lease Insurance in, Wigan 2.0, I just think it's a backward step for the sport. I just think it's a wasted opportunity.
Absolutely is. You look how much the sporting industry is worth in Toronto every single year. If they got 1% of that market, it would probably be worth more than what the other clubs get on their own.
Yeah, I mean, it's
unbelievable, isn't it?
They've kicked them out because of the uncertainty of obviously how they are struggling financially. But am I right in thinking we've had Lease Insurance 4 years ago? They were cap in hand asking for players from Super League.
Yeah.
So
there was an excuse I was put forward that Toronto had got too many sporting clubs in the city. Yeah, and they were already making ground roads in the city. They were getting people in. What was the problem? I don't get it. From a club who basically, let's be honest, how many people in Canada knew about Rugby League until Toronto came along? And then their last game they were playing over there, it were packed and it were full. And you're thinking, you've just missed out. They were getting crowds that were beating some of the Heartland teams' crowds. No offense to them, and you're just thinking, what are you doing? I mean, surely it would be, me personally. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here. I do apologise.
No, do it.
If I was in charge of if I was in charge of the RFL, I'd have been looking for investors or somebody. I know there probably were anyway, but just to take on in Toronto because it's a stepping stone. If you keep that going, imagine how much more money and sponsors and everybody coming in would have done. But no, we've got debt. The club had a debt. Let's get rid of them, sack them off. It shows lack of ambition from our sport, and it's so heartbreaking. We could have made more.
What other sports in the world where would such an important decision be made by the clubs voting based on their own vested interests? It's absolutely baffling.
And that's it. That's another point. Whose interest? Yeah, the club's interest. And why? Because we won't get any away fans coming in from Toronto. And they'd have to pay to go over there. Oh, yeah, it's too much. Yeah, but I'm not being funny, but how much money could they get with sponsors and TV? And if they'd have changed the view from that way to look into that way, we could have loads of money in the sport by now.
There was so much potential for Toronto Wolfpack. I mean, they were on the front page of ESPN's website at one point. They were making national news. It just baffles me. I mean, I was reading the other day. Apparently, they still exist. I think there was a quote from Brian McDermott saying they're looking at making some sort of revival, but when or in what capacity, who knows? But I'm just baffled by it. I just don't get why they've done what they've done. I kind of feel like we should have looked after them a little bit, like we had with Catalan a few years ago when they were first in the league. And I know it's a little bit of a different situation, but we should have given them maybe a couple of years or so of exemption from relegation. The thing is, they've struggled off the back of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So how can you plan for something like that over the year? I mean, in hindsight, when they've backed out of Super League at the time, everyone were up in arms saying, "Oh, it's ridiculous! It's a joke for competition." But when you look on it, I mean, for the right reasons anyway. But how many teams, due to COVID reasons, had to pull out of the game? So Toronto, in looking back on it, did the right thing.
It's going to be one of these which I can say probably 10 years' time we'll all be like, what on earth did we do that for? It is one of those, isn't it? It really is a situation which we'll all regret as a sport because I don't get it. But anyway, right. Mine's a little bit, one of mine is a bit controversial. I would love to see lineouts in Rugby League just to see how they would work.
Oof. So from left field, that one, Laurie. Go on, explain your thought process there. Right,
okay. So obviously we've been debating having scrums and stuff in the game, coming back, which we've seen from Super League. I didn't think we missed them. I know players might say different. I thought it actually looked better, the game. Now, if the ball goes out of play, a line out, your player could either do a quick line out, I'll do a union, or wait. But then again, if you wait, you run the risk of losing it in a line out. So, daft as it sounds, it could be an idea. It's just an option I thought could be quite good. Let's be honest, we're a quick sport. No offence to our cousins who play the 15-man code. They approach it slightly different. Why couldn't we try it?
Sam Walters will be starting every week when they do.
I mean, I don't know what you boys think. I just thought it could be an interesting idea to see on a rugby league game, see how it would work. Because if the ball goes out, some may take it as a breather, but you could see it as maybe trying to gain a possession quicker, get a line out.
Maybe, Loz, we should trial it with one of those like rugby union / rugby league games. Do you remember when they did them back in the day?
The Wigan and Bath games, yeah. Did you see them when the Sky had broadcast them like during the first lockdown? It was so weird because like the league game, poor Bath, they got absolutely demolished. But when it came to the union game, I mean, Wigan got beat, but you looked at how the rugby league lads approached it, and you could see that they knew what they were doing, but the game styles were totally different. I think it'd be totally different nowadays. But yeah, it was so interesting to see like Bath playing league. I mean, the tackling were taking so long. They couldn't keep up with the pace. It was just, it was quite intriguing. But I don't know. It's just an idea. I know.
It's an opinion. It's an idea.
This is that's why we're doing unpopular rugby league opinions.
I wouldn't want to see it. I think we want to try distinguish ourselves away from rugby union as possible because apparently there's only one rugby in England.
So, George, what's your second?
Right. So, wide to west is no longer in the top 3 best Super League moments.
Right, so let me guess, right? The top 3 moments.
I'll have a guess.
Ryan Hall.
Third.
Last year's Super League Grand Final.
Top.
Oh, what's your second? Okay.
The £1 million game.
Okay.
So, in terms, obviously the Ryan Hall one to win the League Leaders Shield, just everything that, don't get me wrong, it was an amazing moment, was wide to west, but you've got the Ryan Hall one, everything that went alongside that with that ridiculous helicopter that kept spinning around on the M62, just completely over the top. Your £1 million game, which was just, people's jobs on the line, and the finish was just unlike something that we've probably ever seen. Was it 2 tries in the last minute, and then a drop goal in extra time?
Yeah,
absolutely crackers. And then obviously this year's Super League Grand Final, which I don't think is probably ever going to be topped, is it? Let's be honest. How do you win a Grand Final after the hooter?
I must admit, when the Grand Final, when Saints won it, I did go slightly bonkers, and then I thought to myself, why am I celebrating? And then I suddenly thought, I've just seen one of the best rugby league moments that's we will ever see in this country, and I suddenly thought, wonder if people did that for the Ryan Hall moment, or would have just lucky Leeds, It one of those, wasn't it, where you could decide, but
sorry, Saints fans, you're 4th now. Do apologise.
It was
relegated.
To be fair, it was such a top crazy moment just to cap off COVID 2020 Super League.
Yeah, because we mentioned it last week about last season, and I know we kind of did go into a bit of depth but in a weird way, the games that were put on last year were actually quite good. I mean, the fact that Sky showed pretty much every game nearly, and some of the games were really good when you look back. Considering the situations of what everyone found themselves in, they did well. You can't.
That comeback against Huddersfield, 27-26, amazing.
12 minutes of chaos. Yeah. That was the maddest way to restart Super League, I think, for Leeds. That's a good one. I like that, job. That's an intriguing one because Wide to West now probably, I think that might be 4th place. We'll put that on the poll later, actually. We'll do that. We'll get that sorted out. Any more, Chris?
I can't think about. I don't know. Just Fev's a decent away game. Pre-season. That's it. I ain't got a list. I've kind of got more of an idea for Magic Weekend, like you mentioned earlier.
You weren't prepared, were you, Chris? Because you weren't on last week.
I know.
I'll
let you watch it. Right, well, I got one I put out on our account. I dread
to think where this is going after your last one, mate. I tell you.
Bellevue is actually a decent ground.
Okay, so
it's got character.
Right, because it's a proper rugby league ground, isn't it? Let's face it. If you think about it, it might be crumbling, but if you consider it, to be fair, you can probably put Weldon Road into this. It's a proper rugby league ground. And don't you think now we're getting to the point where stadiums now are just a bit almost plastic, aren't they, if you think about it? I mean, some of these new ones, you can look at Saints Ground. Yeah, it has an atmosphere, but it's nothing like Knowsley Road. Wigan, it's not going to be like Central Park. Halliwell Jones never going to be like Wilderspool. It's almost like that these sort of grounds, we kind of, yes, they are probably a safety hazard, but they are actually our proper rugby league heritage, aren't they?
They are. That's why I'm so chuffed with what they've done to ours to do it up. Like, I'd be absolutely mortified if we moved to one of them Lego stadiums like Brentford's, for example. Then I know what you're saying, Loz. Like, it'd be a shame if they moved into one of them, like out on a retail park somewhere, middle of nowhere. It wouldn't be the same, would it? And I think part of the reason I like that away days, you could just have a walk up and stop in the pubs, and there's quite a few decent ones.
Are out of town, aren't they now? And it's a bit like you can't really plan on going anywhere or doing anything like, for like Wakefield, a few drinks in the city centre then there. I mean, I know they have got planned, or they're all looking at doing a stadium near to the city centre, a bit closer, but the other side. But I think they're just going to develop Bellevue out there, I think.
Yeah.
But even then it's a bit like, it'll lose its charm, those Benidorm flats will get knocked down at sticks sort of thing. So I don't know. Maybe that's me again. But
I don't hate going. Like you say, I think it's a good afternoon out. You've got town centre, probably about 10, 15 minutes away. It's a decent trek out. But yeah, I'd rather they stay there and modernise it a little bit more, update the facilities rather than, like you say, go to like a soulless plastic stadium with no atmosphere. Going back to like the old grounds, I mean, for me, Knowsley Road, there'll be nothing like it. That for me was just the place to go years ago.
Best away day. One of the best away days. Jordan, I'm looking at you, my friend. Have you got any more to give out?
Yeah, so I've done my full five. A good podcaster always has their full list prepared, Loz.
Oh, I've got mine. Don't worry, mate. We've got mine. I've got the.
So
I've got
my third one is a rugby league opinion that involves the Rhinos, but not from our fans' side of things. If I'm other teams, and it really winds me up. So Castleford would not have won the 2017 grand final even had Hardacre played. People seem to be of the opinion that him not playing cost the game, but if you watch it back, we were in total domination. We played the conditions perfectly. Maguire probably, apart from Burrows that year, was probably the best performance by a player ever in a grand final. They wouldn't have beaten us even if he played. I thought we just played the conditions perfectly.
I agree. I think them two probably, it was the fact that it was their last games in the league shirt. They wanted it more than what Cass did, without sounding horrible to Cass. And even without Peacock, I just think they wilted under the pressure of the grand final. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, it for me, it was the lack of final experience. Leeds just kind of strolled up as though it was just any other game. Castleford, it's their first final in several years. We've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. It kind of reminded me of a bit of 2015, like Jordan said. You've got players that are leaving the club, retiring. It's that motivation. You've got the younger players there that don't want to let down for Burrow, Maguire. Maguire that night had his best game for Leeds. I agree. I don't think it would have made much difference. The only thing that would have changed is the fans' focus would have been on Hardacre a little bit from the Leeds side, giving him a little bit of grief, trying to put him off. That could have maybe motivated him to play well against us, but I don't think it would have changed much.
There were a couple of key moments that Eden was involved in that game because when he got moved to fullback, and I think it was him that put the kick down, wasn't it? When was it Maguire scored?
Yeah,
put the kick up right at the start of the second half, and it was only 7-0. But the kick was that good. Hardacre would probably have dropped it anyway with the weather and things as it was, So whilst it will have had an effect on Cass and and the players and their energy levels on the day and stuff, I don't think it was the be all and end all of the reason we won the game. I thought we were like the perfect performance in a grand final for us, I think.
It was I mean, let's be honest, I don't think one player can make a team, but one player can have an impact on the team, as daft as it sounds. And I think in the situation that we did on that grand final, I think the fact that there were two players who were determined to win on their last game for the club, I think that shone a light. If you think of all the other players as well, Watkins had a good game, if I remember right, in that game. There were, it was literally, the team went for it, didn't they? And I think Cass just didn't know what to do against us that night.
It was mad, that, wasn't it? When you think back now, earlier in the season, we got, was it 72 put on as a Cass?
I'm not sure
66.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah, we got absolutely destroyed.
And, after the game, Brian McDermott went on in his usual charismatic manner and was, we're not far off. They're just a good side. We're not a million miles away. And I've genuinely nearly tried to get him sectioned. But unbelievable how it worked out in the end.
it were all swings and roundabouts, my friend. Right, we did get some. We got some tweets and stuff from people on this subject of unpopular rugby league opinions. Cameron Mark Patterson on Twitter said Leeds Rhinos 2007 to 2019 were the best Super League team ever, better than all three treble-winning sides and the 2004 Rhinos side.
Oh, that's a big statement.
Big shout, isn't it?
Big statement.
Do you know what? Right, I looked at that and at first I thought, "Don't be stupid, mate. Don't be stupid." No offense to Cameron, but now I think about it, it's a good question that because 2014, if you think about it, was brilliant, and there were some big bruisers in that team. I know if you compare it to 2007, then you start looking, don't you? And you think, oh, okay, that 2007 squad had pace, had a lot of power.
Thinking back, right, the 2007 to 9 team, have we ever had a time in our history where we've had players such as Danny Baderas and Brent Webb, like real top world class, like luxury players, really? Because we fetched Baderas in, but we didn't really need him because Diskin was doing a really good job.
Well, that was 2011, though.
Yeah, but towards the but it's all around that sort of period, isn't it? When we had those really good sides, and he might have a shout, to be honest. For me, the 2004 team was just untouchable. The rugby they played over the course of that season was just the night we put 70 on St Helens, and I mean they had a few missing on the night, but it was just unbelievable. Some of the rugby league they played that night, and I think the 2015 season, whilst that was obviously we won the treble, so it's one of our best ever seasons. There was lads in that team that wouldn't have went anywhere near the squad in around 2007, around that time.
And the 2015, you've got to look at towards that end of that campaign, from winning at Wembley to Huddersfield night, they didn't win that many games. In fact, they were really up against it. Players were getting injured. Borough were injured one straight after. I think it was a game after the Champions Cup final. They got injured. They only came really back the Huddersfield game. There was quite a few bits that we didn't play our best. It was only because we got ourselves into that much of a thing of we have to win everything for these lads. So we did it, didn't we? I suspect. Although
it definitely gave them an extra 20%. But I mean, looking at the lad on Twitter might have a point, because it sounds daft because he scored the winning try and that. But would Josh Walters and Jimmy Kainos have got in our 2007 team? No chance. They might have filled the Simon Worrell role and played maybe 6 or 7 games throughout the year, but there's not a chance that they would have made it into final squads.
Nigel Moss on Twitter said, this is something that annoys me. Hardly any playing the balls are correct as per the past. Well, then randomly there is a penalty for not playing the ball correctly. Why is that?
I would tweet Chris Kendall and find out, see if he knows.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Opinions. I mean, I replied selective officiating. No offence to the referees that may watch it, but it is to a certain extent. It's a bit.
Did you see our 3 that got nominated for the sort of world squad, basically?
Yeah.
Can't wait for the World Cup.
It's going to be interesting to see how that happens, isn't it? To be fair. Also, as well, he also added, and props being loose forwards. Now, that's an interesting one. Props. Why are props suddenly trying to be every other player than a prop? Because if you think about it, there's been quite a few who've done that recently. You'll see props kicking. That's against the rule books. You can't have a prop kicking. I mean, I'm not being funny. I know it might be showing my age here, but props, you drive it ball and getting banged around. You should.
You've got a lot of the Roosters who kicks goals.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Blasphemy that for a prop forward. You can't be kicking goals.
Fact, that's another opinion. Any prop, right? I know Reece Martin is a second rower and looks forward who kicks. Yeah. But I'm sorry, but forwards kicking for me, it's wrong.
Do you know what it brings back memories of? I always think back to Paul Anderson against us. What year was this?
No, that seriously wound me up. That seriously wound me up.
2006, round about that time. I think we were down by 40 points, and they thought, you know what, we'll just give it to Paul Anderson. Out on this side, it's just slotted it straight over. That, for me, that was just like rubbing salt into the wounds.
But going back to the point that you make, Loz, about like your loose forwards and your props, it's just the way the game's evolving at the moment. Like your loose forward it's no longer a ball handler. It's very much your like an extra prop, like like your Luke Thompson type of player. But then it's the same across the park though. So your fullback now is just an extra halfback.
So right, this is I knew the show. I know tonight's podcast will go even more bizarre. Right. So what is a loose forward nowadays?
But it's your Paul Gallen type for me.
Because I've always seen it. Maybe this is made like, yeah, you need a. I always saw it as like I grew up as a kid as there being like the guy who would take the ball in, but always operate in like a square angle between the rugby posts. I don't know. That's how I got brought up with loose forward. Anyway, second rowers, they were the slightly fitter forwards who could run a bit more, take the ball with a bit more, last a bit longer up pitch. Props, they did all dirty work, smash, bang, tackle, maybe. And now it's just completely, all rules are gone out of rule book, isn't they?
I think it's just because like rugby league players now are complete athletes compared to what they were as well. So they're so much more versatile than what they were back in the day. I mean, you'll find a second rower in Super League that couldn't easy jump in centre.
That's a good point, to be fair.
So it's just which way the game's gone really now.
And let's be honest, how many centres could play second row now?
Oh, loads.
It's a weird one, isn't it? That sport is changing. Right, Matt Horton, who has been on the show before, he asked, 23 games is better than 27. Yeah, we've had this earlier on in the show. We've talked about this.
What we're saying, yeah, we need to.
23 games is so much better.
It is, like we say, you've got the league season, you've got your playoffs. I mean, we've got to bear in mind we've got a World Cup coming up as well. For me, it's the overkill of seeing the Hull derby, Wigan Saints. If you see that game too many times, I lose. For me, I lose the interest in that. I think we need to go back to the home and away. You just play each other. Go back to say playing 22 games, 23,
and it's done. Yeah, home and away, just play it because in theory, teams are going to get an advantage. Have an advantage because they're going to end up playing teams who might have a weaker thing and end up. Yeah, sorry, I'm going on a rant there, but yeah, you're right. It's a good point. We need to have the game the season structured where I think home and away, and then I don't know, Magic. How would you pick Magic Weekend? Right, because I've got an idea, boys. This is my idea.
No. Here we go.
Right. Friday night, Magic Weekend. It's a free ticket event in the stadium. There's a stage set up where we could have bands on. And then maybe 8 o'clock, somebody comes up and does a draw. And that draw is for who plays who that weekend.
Can it be Rod Stewart that does a draw?
Yes. Now, that would be priceless. Yeah, how good
if you
would
don't
that
know what
be?
we're talking about, put it on YouTube.
Yeah, look up Rod Stewart. I did that the other day, actually. It's genius. It's one of those which I think would work, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Magic Weekend. Have you got any opinions on Magic Weekend?
What about it?
Well, no, but like an unpopular opinion on Magic Weekend. Like, how would you change it? Or is there anything that you'd do differently? No? Okay.
Yeah, I would
just threw that out there.
Go on,
I would put more thought into who's fancy with who, so that there's not a fight every year. That would be good.
Leeds and Hull, yeah.
Yeah, every single time Leeds and Hull in the same stand. What could go wrong?
Oh. Yeah. What I'd like to see, like fancy booking, and I know there's going to be flaws to it, but sod it anyway. It's my idea. I'm going to stick with it. I'd love to see the Magic Weekend on the last round of Super League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically, you buy your ticket, you're going to see the league leaders crowned, potentially see teams sealing a playoff fixture, but also, added bonus, you're going to see
somebody get relegated.
Well. Yes. So could you imagine if, say, Hull potentially could get relegated, the amount of Hull FC fans that want to buy tickets? I think it'd sell out. I think it'd be brilliant.
The interesting thing is, the only worry with that is it all ends up getting completed like 2 or 3 rounds beforehand. That's where you could do it where it's 2 or 3 rounds before, maybe. I don't know.
Imagine if you went up to Newcastle and we knew we were finishing 6th when we were playing Wakefield. We'd just stop in the pub.
It would just be a weekend away, wouldn't it? Without any rugby league. In fact, it's probably better to have it May, June time. Let's have a look. This was the best one from Nathan Driscoll on Twitter. Anyone suggesting Yorkshire versus Lancashire as a viable alternative to an Origin should be fired out of the cannon into the sea. This is both my controversial opinion and a suggestion as to what you should do to people responding with this idea. Right,
well, as a Cumbrian, I agree. Very racist. We want to get involved as well. Not than that.
It's a brilliant one. That I laughed at that when I saw it. I thought, yeah, that's quite funny. That, and don't get me wrong, it'll never. We could never have that intensity with it because we haven't had that many years playing it, or when we did, we stopped instantly. If we'd have carried on, maybe we'd have built it up, but there's just it won't work for me. I don't know.
Nope, agreed. That's a good opinion.
I think I didn't mind going to the games back in the day, but it's been so long now since the last one. I don't think anyone would really be that interested in it.
No, it to me, it seems a bit of a waste of time. Personally, I don't know. That might get changed. I don't know. Let's have a look. Sarah Bowman says scrap loop fixtures. We all agree. Scrap loop. Fixtures. In fact, loop fixtures seem to be the only thing, really, doesn't it? It seems to be pretty much. I can't. I've got no more suggestions from anybody else. I'm afraid, guys. There's not. So, in theory, there's quite a few rugby league opinions, and also. I've got one more to add to the thing before this. Can we change the focus on instead of domestic to international? I think our sport would be so much better if we change from constantly focusing on Super League and NRL. Why don't we focus on the international aspect?
Because we get our money from Sky, isn't it? And I understand it. They've got to be seen to be, ramming Super League down your throat, don't they? Like, oh, this is the best Super League ever. Every year they say that, don't they? It's getting better and better. People can see the reality of it, can't they? But that's which way it's going.
How they're going to promote this year's that could be the interesting one, actually, couldn't it? I mean, we have all the big promo videos like the NRL do every year. Ours going to be like an empty stadium and go, we're back.
Yeah. Sky Sports the only way you'll get to watch it.
You can just imagine that being a promo, can't you? Like somebody, Luke Gale stood at Headingley going, "Yeah, this is how you."
John Wells shouting like he's in a phone book.
Do you know what the advert for it can't be as bad as the one with the Brownlee brothers a few years ago?
I'm trying to remember that.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, it was just one of them going for a run, wasn't it? And
oh yeah,
it was just really random, wasn't it?
What was that one? One with Tompkins and Thingy.
Bradley Wiggins.
Bradley Wiggins, yeah. They were all right.
He drove his bike past one of them Stobart lorries.
Oh, God.
Oh, now talking of which, should we even go to Stobart lorries? I mean, let's be honest, is that the worst? Right. Talking of which, this is my final one.
This is going.
Sponsorship deals, right? Seriously, how many bad sponsorship deals has our sport had over the last God knows how many years?
I don't know what you're on about. That pizza that Tompkins put on Twitter looked bloody lovely, and I wouldn't have it said otherwise.
Oh, dear God. No, just Papa John's. Yeah, we'll give you a free pizza. Tuna.
You'll take what you're given.
Well, yeah. I mean, what would you rather prefer, a pizza or a little toy lorry that they were giving out back in the day for Eddie Stobart?
Look at the lorry looking at that pizza.
Are we talking pepperoni pizza?
Tuna on it. That's
no, if you go and try and find a picture that he put on Bobby's hands, wouldn't have it?
No, I'll go with the lorry then.
Disgusting. I've got another two lost just to finish off.
We'll do these and then it'll be the end for tonight, Chief. Go on, roll them out.
My last two. So, number 4, the NRL's not always that entertaining. I'm going to say that in duck, right? Because don't get me wrong, the real top games, the Origins, the Grand Finals, and pretty much 2 games a weekend. It's like watching a different sport to Super League, and I totally understand that. But you do get games where it's just set for set, trade sets, kick, stick in the arm wrestle, and it's not always, what people have it cracked up to be.
Yeah, I get that. I think the problem with NRL is it's one of those where it's it is an intense league, don't get me wrong, but the intensity for me seems to grow as the season goes, doesn't it? And then obviously a lot of focus in the middle of the season is all on Origin, which you can tell most of the players are focused on that. And then obviously when you get to about August time, playoffs are looming. So it's a weird one, isn't it? I think the NRL, I'm a big NRL fan. I know where you're coming from. There has been blowout games, but I do think you get the same in Super League.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love watching the NRL, but the way that people talk over here, that's like the be all and end all of rugby league, and anything that's not the NRL's crap. It's not necessarily the case. There's great games in Super League as well, just like there's poor games in the NRL from time to time. So, more often than not, it's amazing, and it is like watching a different sport. It's not always like this thing, but it needs to be on a pedestal up there. Super League has games that are just as entertaining.
It's a good point. I'm not saying I agree with you. I do see your point because there are games which I like now. Yeah, I get that.
So my last one. And you know me, I'm very much Mr. Positivity, glass half full type of guy. England can actually win the Rugby League World Cup.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't see why we can't.
Hang on, it came within an ankle tap of winning. Well,
don't.
Sorry, I know you guys were there. There. But
we're likely to run into Tonga in the semi-finals, right? And for me, we can match them up the middle. I'm pretty, they are excellent up the middle, but I reckon, if the players we've got, if Sean Wayne's to really get into them and get them fired up, I think we can match them up the middle. Outside backs, we're probably the same, but they totally lack creativity for me. They haven't got a good 6 and 7 who can, unlock a defence. And for me, that's where we beat Tonga. Now, obviously, if you were to meet the Aussies in the final, I think we're better than they are up the middle. Certainly don't think that we've anything to fear there. I think they're better in the outside backs than what we are, and just a little bit of creativity. But what I think is that Wayne might sort of let them play with a bit more freedom than Bennett did under that Richard structure. And I just feel like during the World Cup final, we had that much ball, we could have won 2 or 3 games. If we'd just been a little bit more expansive with it rather than what we were, we could have won the game. And I just think if the same happens again under Sean Wayne and his style of coaching, I genuinely think we'll go close.
Question is, though, who would you pick as your halfbacks for England?
Oh, it's hard to say at the moment, isn't it? But obviously
we've still got season to go out. We really, yeah. But
you've got George Williams, who I've said before in the podcast, for me, he's never really, stood out as top class, but he's been excellent, hasn't he, down in Australia? He really has looked good.
Impressive.
And it'd be somebody to go with him, really. And I think, if Luke Gale was to pick his form up from this season, he would be in with half a shout. You've got Johnny Lomax, who's been consistently good for, best part of 4 or 5 years now, who could stake a claim. And there's a variety of options there, isn't there? So I'm quite excited to see how they go under Sean Wayne. I think we'll get under a few teams' skins, won't we, with some of the lads that we've got and his style of play and everything. It should be good to watch. It should be a very proud England team, actually.
I was reading the other day, he's bringing in John Terry. He's sort of working alongside him, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to put full strip on to lift the trophy, John Terry.
Yeah. Well, as long as he's only doing that and he's not doing anything untoward.
Oh, it's a shame Brett Ferrer's in it team anymore. They'd have got on well, them two. Allegedly.
I don't know what you're suggesting, Jordan.
No, I mean, I've no idea. It's been an interesting one. I've got to say, moving swiftly on. The thing is, I think with England, I think it's very much a case of, we've had that so many times before. Well, not many times, but we've said it. I mean, like the last World Cup, it was one of those where we're like, could we do it? Could we do that? And then to get that close, it almost makes you think, were we that good? Or, what would it take us to win that game, if that makes any sense? And
just to be a bit smarter on the day and build a bit more pressure and just have that little bit more, like, sort of cut an edge on the day, really. We were so close. We had enough ball to win the game, but we didn't do enough with it. And for me, it's just unlocking that defence and just believing in yourself a bit more. I think Bennett maybe stifled a few of the lads with a bit of creativity. Just play what you see, go at the line. Like Sir George Williams and that. Then will be, but they could unlock the Aussies' defence by doing that.
Yeah, I think as well with Wayne is it will have a different coaching vision, probably 180 degrees down the other way, completely different. I've just got a feeling he'll play with more. He'll want the team to play with more passion, won't he? I mean, as it sounds, if I were Wayne right now, I'd be thinking, can I get Jamie Peacock involved here, or somewhere to motivate the team? Get people in who had that passion with wearing the England shirt. It could actually, we could win it.
Let's be honest. If you none of us are ever going to play for England, so we don't know what it's like. But I could presume he would want to run through a wall and it's only going to amplify with Wayne as a coach, you would think, because he's quite the motivator by all accounts. But I was reading in the week that he's been, having like Zoom meetings with certain groups. So he's had all these back rowers on one meeting, much like we are now, and he shared videos of what he wants them to do. So even though they're not on the field together, they're sort of getting an idea of how they want to play. And by all accounts, it's quite exciting. I have a few of the lads that have been on them say good things. So
I'm actually quite glad we've got a full-time coach as well, because that way we've got somebody who's 100% focused on that one job in hand, rather than being like, oh yeah, I'm going to coach Brisbane or going to coach Souths, or England might just be I might ring them up tomorrow, see if they're all right. He's going to be there watching games, making note. He will be there. And I kind of think that's going to be a good thing.
And then that's how it really should be with an England coach. He needs to be watching the players week in, week out regularly, picking players that are actually playing well on form and not just going with like reputation and going with names. But yeah, I think Wayne will do a good job.
He will. What you're saying there, Chris, is obviously we've done something like that because most Super League games have been on Sky, so we've been able to watch a lot more games than what we probably would have done in previous seasons. And to me, it's really helped me like sort of see certain players in a light that I wouldn't have done had I seen them, once every couple of weeks. So somebody like Toby King, for example, right, who from what it knew, you'd watch him on Sky every couple of weeks and think, oh, yeah, he's not a bad player. But then actually, when you sit and watch all of Warrington's games on Sky, he's outstanding for them pretty much every week. And
a lot of graft.
Yeah, so he's the type of player that you wouldn't notice, but probably in form should start in the centres for you. So, hopefully he's getting out there and watching all them games. Well, we know he is because we've seen him on telly, so I'm jealous of him, to be honest.
It's probably one of won't we? Right. Anyway, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. And thank you very much, Mr. Christopher Patrick.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
The legend himself from Cumbria, Mr. Jordan Walker.
Same time next week, Ellos.
Be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Probably still be in lockdown, won't we?
Yeah. And from me, Mr. Lorley, goodbye. Thanks for listening and watching.
Cheers, guys.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Wow.